Hello everyone, welcome back to one of my favourite tracks. It's definitely up there. We are back at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. With its bendy Sector 1, with two straights you can overtake on, the back and the front. And in my opinion, one of the best turn ones in Formula 1 on the calendar right now. Because of how wide it is, you get so many cars trying to get into that corner at different positions. And of course, I have been here before, as you can see from the hat, at the 2015 Grand Prix, where I got to see Jenson Button drive a GP2 engine car, and more importantly, I suppose, Lewis Hamilton winning his third World Championship, which feels crazy to say he only had 3 at the time. But anyway, now the dick riding has finished, let's talk about what you need to know going into this weekend's racing. Norris and Verstappen, it is all over the news, it is what everyone is talking about, and realistically, it's all everyone's going to be talking about until the season ends. There's a few ways that doesn't happen, but hear me out. It's all going to be about, can Lando Norris keep on getting those wins, and can Verstappen just hold him off with how well that McLaren is doing right now? So it very much looks like for the rest of the season, McLaren will be the top constructor for F1. I mean, points-wise and just in general with their package. So they are the team to beat. So I do expect Norris and Piastri to try and put it on 1 and 2. But Verstappen and Red Bull have to make sure that they can do something about that. Because if Norris comes first and Verstappen comes third, or even anywhere below that, for the rest of the races, Norris will take the championship. And this isn't that far-fetched to think about. We've seen McLaren and their pace throughout the last part of the season. And we've seen Red Bull be so inconsistent now. Singapore, they looked good. But then Baku, they looked dreadful. He couldn't even keep up with the Mercedes, Ferraris, or McLarens in that race. So Red Bull really have to focus on the upcoming races. However, there is a few ways, obviously, this doesn't actually end up being anything, and that could happen this race with a DNF. So if Lando Norris gets a DNF, the championship battle is over, with the gap probably going over 60 to 70 points again. And realistically, in the last few races, that's just not a gap you can deal with. However, if Verstappen gets a DNF, then honestly, it is Norris's championship to throw away, because the gap would most likely be around 20 to 30 points. And my God, Norris could definitely catch that. So be on the look for any DNFs, be on the look for any crashes. But Cota is vital for the championship battle. If anyone DNFs, it's done. And also, Norris has to do no mistakes. And then don't forget about all the racing action we have this weekend. Now, love it or hate it, for me, coming back from a 3-week break, a sprint race is just what I need. It can be a bit annoying, sprint race weekends, because of how much there is. Obviously, it's on a Friday, but at least for me, it's at night time as well, so it sort of works out better. But after so little F1 happening, my God, I'd take them all on like kiddie bikes racing each other for an extra point around the track. I do not care, just get racing. It's been too long. But yeah, the sprint race will be happening, so don't forget that the sprint quali will be on the Friday, and that's the first bit of proper action. There's still practice 1, and then you've got the sprint race, you've got the qualifying, the actual race, all of that good stuff on the Saturday and the Sunday. Then we move on to the home team, which is Haas F1, and it's a very special weekend for them, because first of all, they have a new partnership with Toyota Gazoo, which is basically like a sub part of Toyota who deal with a lot of their racing. So we're going to see some branding for that, which is going to be exciting. And of course, it's their home GP, so hopefully they can do something good. We know Magnussen can do well at sprint race weekends, and Hulkenberg's very consistent, so I'm hoping they can get a point out of this, but only time will tell. But for me, 100% Haas should be the top midfield car, so I would actually be a bit disappointed in them if they didn't come away with a point. Then we have Liam Lawson back on the grid, but he has a 10th-place grid penalty, so realistically, it doesn't matter too much. Yeah, he might impress in the sprint race, but unless he gets into Q3, he's starting at the back. And even in that V-Carb, if he starts at the back, I can't see him getting higher up than the likes of 14th, 15th, 16th. So it's not going to be a race to remember. It's going to be quite an easy ease into F1, because there's really no standard he needs to live up to, especially for this race. It's going to be more about Mexico, more about Brazil. Especially starting at the back, just give it your all, don't crash out. We'll see what happens with Lawson. But I'm excited to see if he can outperform Tsunoda in qualifying. I don't think he will. And then finally, before we get onto the upgrades, I'll give you my prediction of the week. And my prediction is that we are going to have our first proper safety car since Barcelona so many races ago. That is a Zach guarantee. And if that doesn't happen, well, it was basically the ice bucket challenge, wasn't it? But that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get an ice cold bucket of water and I'll tip it all over myself, because I'm so adamant that there's going to be a safety car. It's a sprint race weekend. Somewhere has to have a safety car. So for me, that's a safe bet to have. But then moving on to the upgrades, we'll talk about the most exciting upgrade first, and that's because it's one of the only proper midfield teams to bring a very big package to Cota, and that is the home team of Haas. And they are bringing a really exciting package. Both Hulkenberg and Magnussen are very excited to see what they can do with the car, which boosts their confidence even more. Komatsu has even stated, in Austin, we're bringing our main update for the final part of the season, which will mainly involve another set of development in the floor and bodywork. And then he also stated that it's not going to be something brand new, it's just going to be an evolution. These are his exact words. This is a development and further evolution of our package, not something new in terms of concept, although the car will look a little different. So with the Toyota branding and the upgrades, it's going to be a really exciting weekend for Haas. Now, VCarb are rumoured to bring upgrades. We'll see exactly what they're going to be, potentially around their suspension. But it's one to just keep an eye on, as they haven't really gone out into the media and said exactly what they're going to be upgrading. However, it's highly rumoured that they will be bringing something, so don't be surprised come sprint quali or practice one that you see VCarb with a few upgrades on their car. It won't be anything crazy, nothing as big as Haas's, but it will still hopefully be able to push them more into the midfield than they like, because they had a decent weekend at Singapore, but they've been dropping further back on the grid. So I'd like to see VCarb trying to fight for the points again. But honestly, Haas and VCarb bringing upgrades, that is great for the battle for 6th place. My money is on Haas at the minute. And then finally, for the midfield teams, we have Aston Martin. Again, another team like VCarb, being very quiet exactly what this upgrade is going to be, but heavily rumoured. And apparently it's going to sort of be an evolution of what they've just been working on this entire season. Fernando Alonso will be hoping to get something out of it. But again, it's another upgrade where we'll just have to wait and see what they bring, because they haven't really specified exactly yet what they are actually bringing to the car itself. And then the reason I said those were the most exciting upgrades was because realistically, these upgrades itself, by themselves, are very interesting. However, because it's all the top 4 teams, it doesn't really mean much. Basically, if all of them bring upgrades, maybe a few upgrades will work a little bit better. However, most likely they're just going to stick to where they were. So the first team that I will talk about is Ferrari. Another team being quite secretive about what the upgrades will be. It's going to be something to do with their aerodynamics, but it's going to be interesting. It's not going to be a massive package, and it will be their final one of the season, which is most likely the case for all of the other teams. And any other team that I haven't mentioned most likely aren't bringing any more upgrades this season. But Fred Vasseur actually said, I think it will probably be the last one for everybody. That will be true for us, but it will be true for the other teams. So that basically solidly confirms these are the final upgrades, especially for Ferrari. So hopefully they can work on that car. And then we have McLaren, which I think from the top 4 teams is the most exciting aspect, because Stella's been quoted to be having a little comment about the FIA when they see the updates. But basically, it's going to be a new package to the floor, because they haven't touched it since their big package from Miami. And honestly, it's one of those things where if it works, McLaren just become even more dominant. And if McLaren are the dominant car like Red Bull used to be, then 100% it's very much going to help Norris in the championship fight. Because if Piastri can keep on coming second, that's all Norris needs. But very exciting to see what McLaren can do with that new floor. We'll see if it works in practice 1 and sprint quali. Who knows? Maybe they'll have to revert back to what actually worked before. And then we have the Red Bull upgrades. Again, similar to McLaren, they're doing a revised floor, which is going to be exciting to see, because Red Bull and McLaren both bringing similar upgrades. It'll be interesting to see which development routes they go and which one suits their cars better. But it is so vital that these upgrades work for Red Bull, because if these upgrades don't work with the car they have, they will be left behind from the likes of Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, and it really puts Verstappen in a sticky situation. And then finally, for the top 4 teams, we have Mercedes to bring a big package as well to the Cota Grand Prix. But sadly, we don't have a lot of information on what it's going to be. It's another case of wait till Friday to see practice 1 sessions to see what they're doing with the car. It's up in the air exactly what it's going to be, but all of these updates normally go around the aerodynamics, and I would be very surprised if Mercedes weren't doing something very similar to all of the other teams. So something to do with their floor or the suspension, something like that. But we'll have to wait and see, because this is their final attempt to really try and rein in the likes of Ferrari and McLaren and get the most out of Lewis Hamilton before he obviously leaves for Ferrari. Let's see if they can. My money is on Ferrari and McLaren still being the top constructors at the end of this Grand Prix, with McLaren being the fastest, Ferrari being second, and then Mercedes and Red Bull fighting for those positions after those two. But only time will tell. It'll be interesting to see if Ferrari can catch up to Red Bull in the constructor standing. Who knows? If Perez continues to be Perez, it's very much likely. But anyway, that is all you need to know for the upcoming Grand Prix at the Circuit of the Americas. Austin, Texas, United States Grand Prix, whatever you want to call it. I'm very excited for it, not just because we've had such a long break from F1 in general, which of course is making me excited for it, but because we always get good overtakes here. The track layout is brilliant. We've seen champions being crowned here. We've seen Kimi Raikkonen win here, very important. And we've just seen such incredible racing, and it's always a good show. It's not too over the top, but it's not too over the top like Vegas, so for me it's okay. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all later for another F1 and another F1 fantasy related video later. Bye bye, and have a good weekend.